The most important, biggest news of the last 2 weeks is that mkdev now offers a free cloud cost audit for the companies that fit certain requirements around the size of the infrastructure and the size of the company. If you fit these requirements, we will do the whole infra audit for you for free, and we'll tell you how to optimize your cloud spend, how to make sure that you have a real FinOps in your company, and cut the cost usually by around 20 to 30%. Please use the link in the description below to contact us and learn if your company is eligible for this offer, and then we'll figure out if we can help you with the cloud cost.
An electric new era for Atlas.
Boston Dynamics, this company that makes lots of cool robots and always makes really cool videos about how this robots works, they said that the hydraulic Atlas robot is deprecated, and now they built a new fully electric robot with the same name Atlas that they want to use for commercial use cases. These news are not related to DevOps, cloud and AI, they are more about robotics and application of robotics in the real life. But the reason I want to talk about it is because they announced this robot in the most horror movie-like way, where the robot just stands up and then like rotates her hands and legs in a crazy way and then like spins 180 degrees and walks away. And it's impressive how many news in 2024 we have about really incredible new technology that will potentially do lots of cool new things for the humanity. But if you look at these technologies from different perspective, you will see that all of these things like the super cool robots, AI, VR, AR, all of them are kind of a components of the future that is shown in movies like Matrix, where you have robots and virtual reality and all of this, or Ready Player One, dominating the humanity and taking over the humanity. And we just need to hope and do our best to make sure that we don't end up in this kind of future, because apparently we humans can actually make all of these things and all of these technologies that were imagined in the movies from like 20 years ago. And we saw how it might end up in these movies, so we need to make sure that it doesn't really happen. Kubernetes 1.30 release. There is a new minor version of Kubernetes 1.30 with lots of new features around like volume management, security, performance, all the regular stuff. And I found myself to be almost bored by new Kubernetes releases because the technology became so mature and stable that all the releases are about these small incremental improvements on different stacks that it's really hard to get really excited about something. So for sure, it's out. Upgrade your clusters. Your cluster will become better as a result of this upgrade. You will probably get more features, but these features are so really niche and specific that for majority of users, it does not make sense. I mean, for majority of users, Kubernetes makes no sense in the first place, but if you found yourself with Kubernetes, then these new releases are like, okay, probably we will never use it. One curious thing is this new traffic distribution feature for services, because now service object can do a bit more around how it routes traffic to the pods, like it now considers the load of each pod. So it gets a bit more real like L7 load balancer features that are not really exposed that well, but it becomes more and more capable. And those kind of almost competing a bit with ingress and API gateway features of Kubernetes. So let's see how it develops further. But in any case, it's good that for this in-cluster, inter-service communication, the built-in ways in Kubernetes are even more powerful and can do a bit more, a bit better. Introducing Meta Llama 3, the most capable openly available LLM to date. So Meta, or Facebook, or Meta, announced a new third version of their LLM, Llama. They announced 7 billion, 80 billion versions, and they said that there is also a 400 billion parameters version being trained right now. All of these versions, they are beating all the other open models by lots of different benchmarks. They also beat different commercial models in some benchmarks like GPT-3, I think even GPT-4 they beat in some way. And for sure this 400 billion parameters version is the most capable, and it like outperforms 80 billion version by many points. And the best part of Llama 3, of course, or any open model, is that these models are openly available. You can go and like run this thing on your laptop. It runs pretty well on any MacBook with Apple Silicon, for example. people were able to start Llama 3 on the iPhone. You can run it on any server with just like install Ollama and like Ollama run, or different other ways with the LangChain. So really, it's really powerful model. So it's not just some toy silly model. It's really a powerful thing, and it's open. So you can use it for your own services and applications and use cases, or you can use it offline on your machine. And of course, other cloud providers want to use it as well. So one of the first things Amazon announced after Llama 3 announcement is that Amazon Bedrock now supports Llama 3. Amazon Bedrock, as a reminder, it's this kind of service that sits between you and lots of different models and makes it easy for you to use these models in the cloud without necessarily like running servers or functions or whatever. So it's just like unified API for many different LLMs, including now Llama 3. What's also curious is that Mark Zuckerberg was completely transparent about the future of AI. He said that, well, yes, Meta, and by the way, Meta currently owns more GPUs than any other companies. They own something like 10% of certain super powerful GPUs from NVIDIA, and they just purchase them in batches since many years. And Mark, he said that, well, we have Llama 3, we have all of the AI, we are really heavy on AI investment, but there will be no real profit from AI in the next years, because we still need to build a lot and invest a lot of money to make this commercially viable. Which, as a result of this, it brought the stock price of Meta 10% down after the announcement, even though Meta almost doubled their profits and significantly increased their revenue. So it's a bit funny how market reacts to different announcements like this. Apparently they would prefer capital expenditure of Meta to be like as low as possible, like in different fake cloud providers, so that the revenue is just super high, but they're not building anything new. Route53 Profiles. AWS announced a new Route53 feature called Profiles, and it's something like a centralized way to manage standard settings for DNS, resolver, and private zones across multiple VPCs and multiple accounts. Which is cool, because that's something lots of organizations, bigger enterprises with a very complex network setup will surely appreciate that you have this way. For me, the question is how it fits into the whole infrastructure as code world, because in theory you could also wrap all of these settings and automate them with the Terraform module or a CloudFormation template, or whichever other infra as code tool that you prefer. So how Route53 profiles are better than doing this with infra as code is still an open question, at least for me, especially because Route53 profiles for sure will be available over API, so you can manage Route53 profiles with Terraform. But in any case, because not everyone is using infrastructure as code, unfortunately, if you don't use infrastructure as code and you want to contact us via the link in the video description, we will help you to become decent on this front.
There are no challenges that we couldn't overcome. Whether it is immediate infrastructure problems or planning a future project, we won't simply answer your questions. We become a part of your team to help you complete the mission. Our solutions consider the interests of your business and the combined expertise of the industry, as our staff is made up of more than a dozen experts in different areas who share decades of field-tested experience and knowledge with you.
Let's see, it seems to be a really cool feature, really useful for the big enterprises. We just need to figure out how to properly use it in the real world, like always. 2024 DORA survey now live. Share your thoughts on AI, DevEx, and platform engineering. One of the biggest surveys out there about the state of DevOps, platform engineering, and all these things that we care about is DORA report from Google. The other one is DevOps report that I talked about in one of the previous videos. Check this out to see what's new in DevOps according to that report. And now Google announced that they started collecting the responses for the DORA 2024 survey. I think it's very important for all of you who is watching this video to go and leave your replies to the survey, because the more answers they collect, the better picture we will get of the state of the DevOps and platform engineering world, and the better decisions we will be able to make in the future, and the better understanding of what we should start looking into on our day-to-day job we will get. don't know when the story will be published, but it's a good thing to fill in, unlike many other data collection activities from Google. TSMC says first 1.6 nanometer chips coming in 2026. So chips is very important part of everything we do because they're everywhere. And even though none of us, or most of us, don't really design chips on day-to-day basis, it still influences everything we do, because the more powerful chips you have in smartphones, the more capable are our smartphones, the more things we can do directly on device without the cloud. Or the more powerful the chips are, the faster our workloads can be in the cloud, and the more energy efficient and thus less costly, which is shown by Amazon Graviton, which is basically like 30% more performant and 30% cheaper. So last year we got the very first mass-produced 3 nanometer chip in the iPhone 15 smartphone, and we had a separate podcast where we talked about how long it actually took to get to this tiny semiconductors of 3 nanometers. It's like 30 years of R&D, more or less. And now TSMC, they announced was their roadmap to start mass producing 1.6 nanometer semiconductors. Chips twice as small as 3 nanometers, or almost twice as small. And that's really impressive because it's just 2 years time gap to double down in size, and we will all benefit from this. And I think it's really important to follow this news about semiconductors and chips, because even if you don't really have a big influence on production of these chips or designing them, or most of us don't, it's something that defines the future of computing, because the better the chips, the better our computers. And the better our computers, the better is everything that we can do with these computers with the software. Import custom models in Amazon Bedrock. I previously said about Amazon Bedrock and how it's like this unified layer to invoke different models. And now Amazon allows to run any custom model, because currently you can only run models from the fixed list. Like you can run Anthropic models, you can run Amazon Titan, you can run Meta Llama and some other models, and now they just let you run any custom model and with any kind of custom weights. So you can just take a model from Hugging Faces or your completely own models that you developed in your company, upload it to S3 and use it in Bedrock in a scalable way with this unified authorization and SDKs and so on, which is really good. GitHub comments abused to push malware via Microsoft repo URLs. It's crazy that almost every week, or sometimes multiple times per week, we get news about a new security issue with something that belongs to Microsoft. In this case, it's GitHub, and the problem is that when you write a comment on a pull request in the GitHub repository and you upload a file to this comment and then remove the comment, the file stays forever uploaded to GitHub's CDN network. And the URL attached to this file is linked to the repository, so it's not connected to the pull request comment. It doesn't exist anyway. It's really tied to the repository. So then someone evil can just go create a pull request for, let's say, Terraform, if they're brave enough and can avoid the lawsuit. Upload the file, remove the comment, and here we have a file from the outside looking like a file that belongs to the Terraform repository, meaning that this file is like trusted by lots of security tools because it's from GitHub, because it's from the known repository, but in reality it's malware, and no one can even figure out who created this comment or by looking at the file, because the comment is already removed. So just another funny thing that happens on Microsoft-owned tools in terms of security. Hashicorp joins IBM to accelerate multi-cloud automation. IBM purchasing Hashicorp was probably not on many people's bingo card for this year, especially because of all the other breaking news that Hashicorp produced in the last 6 months with the license change and then trying to sue OpenTofu and so on. But apparently Hashicorp was in the state where they could not really acquire new customers fast enough, especially after the license change. The number of the new customers grows like became twice as slow, I think. And most of the money comes from a number of big customers. So if you lose one big customer, then you have a real hit in your revenue. So they were not doing great financially, and the stock price was not okay, going like more and more down after the IPO. So financially, it's a really good moment for someone like IBM to purchase Hashicorp, which they did for $6.7 billion. It's now a question whether Hashicorp will be part of the IBM cloud division or Red Hat. I hope it will become part of Red Hat, because the IBM's cloud division is basically a joke. You can see by capital expenditures that they don't really invest money in building the cloud, and you need to invest lots of money if you want to be a cloud company. You cannot just stop spending money and hope that the cloud works out. So clearly IBM is a consultancy company first and foremost, like mkdev, just billion times bigger. And so it fits better if Hashicorp becomes part of Red Hat, because Red Hat is the company that is famous for giving everything out as an open source, which they did with Ansible Tower, for example. So maybe they will open source Terraform Cloud or some other previously paid for features of HashiCorp's products, because the things that Red Hat is selling, they're selling support and licensing, but they don't really sell the features usually, which is a great model for everyone, because they still make lots of money from, for example, OpenShift is a highly successful product of Red Hat and now IBM. Another speculation that I see on the internet is that maybe now that IBM purchased HashiCorp, they will change the license back. I'm not sure about it, because I think the purchases for almost 7 billion don't happen overnight. That's probably there were negotiations for like many months. I would even guess maybe before the license was changed. I would even drop the conspiracy theories that the license change was motivated by IBM and they just wanted to avoid reputational damage from changing the license. So maybe they said, hey, HashiCorp, change the license before we purchase you, and then you look bad and IBM will look good, or actually they will not look bad for changing the license. But let's see, maybe I'm wrong, and then they will change the license back. And then it's unclear what should we do with OpenTofu, because OpenTofu never reached the high adoption rate so far, because it's just, there was not enough time. It just takes time to adopt things like OpenTofu. And if HashiCorp changes or IBM changes the license back, then what will OpenTofu do, and what's the place of OpenTofu? Just an awkward fork of Terraform? Neo4j welcomes new GQL international standard in major milestone for database industry. First time in more than 30 years there is a new international standard for the query language. Previous one was SQL, and now it's the GQL, the language for the graph databases, originating from the Neo4j database, but being used in many different other graph-based databases out there. It's good, standards are good, so we have now specification and whatnot for this kind of databases. So when you use different databases for graph stuff, you can have kind of a single point of reference. Of course, like with SQL, it's not going to work out completely. And what I mean by this is that there's a standard for SQL, but really if you take the query that you use against your Postgres database and try to run it against MySQL, big chance that it just won't work because of the Postgres specific features, and vice versa. The MySQL query might not just work on the Postgres database. I expect the same thing to be with GQL, but at least we have some kind of a foundational of the query language fixed in the standard, or like fixed because it will evolve for sure. And then these different separate features are functioning or should be functioning still within the same query language standard defined by ISO. Pulumi announces drift detection and remediation, continues to monitor your infrastructure changes. Pulumi is probably having the best time of its life because it was released long ago enough to be mature and used by many companies by now, so it highly benefits from all the shitstorm that is happening with Hashicorp in the last 6 months, because that's the real alternative from already like successful company offering and building these tools. Plus, Pulumi is trying to do these crazy things that Hashicorp didn't think about doing, and that is actually building a good product and focus on the product instead of focusing on suing open source developers or changing the licenses. So one of these new features that Pulumi has announced is the drift detection and remediation. Drift detection is nothing fancy. It's something that CloudFormation is capable of doing, for example. It just checks that your infrastructure diverted from your infrastructure as code and tells like, hey, someone added a new security group rule. But if you're talking about CloudFormation, once CloudFormation detects drift, you're supposed to go and manually fix this drift, otherwise nothing really works. What Pulumi did was also common sense, that is not available to CloudFormation team apparently, is that you can automatically remediate this change. So if Pulumi sees that there is a drift, instead of notifying you about this drift, it is able to auto-fix it by just applying your Pulumi code. Which is great, and again, it's a common sense, but actually not many massively used tools have it. So again, kudos to Pulumi for improving the product in this way. Another thing they added is the lifetime for the stacks. So you can now say that this set of resources has like a lifetime of 3 days, and it will tear down it automatically in 3 days, which is perfect for dev environments, for staging, and so on, or even just for the quick POCs when you just create an infrastructure just to play around and you forget about it by accident, and then Pulumi will tear it down. So one point here is that you could do all of this with CloudFormation and Terraform. You could wrap it with bash scripts, you could automate it with Lambda function and whatnot. But the thing what Pulumi is doing is that they see these use cases that become more and more popular as platform engineering, and it becomes more of a thing and adopted by more companies. And they build features around these use cases instead of just telling, you will just automate it yourself, like CloudFormation and Terraform is doing. That's also one of the things with the Pulumi's automation API, where you can completely change your infrastructure via the code without any CLI. So you can just build, like, let's say, a microservice responsible for processing incoming data and creating new resources on demand. Something that you cannot do with CloudFormation CDK, Terraform CDK, because both of these tools require you to run CLI. So you're always forced to find some cryptic way to invoke CLI code, or to wrap CLI invocations with the bash scripts, which is far from ideal, right? In this way, Pulumi automation, again, Pulumi saw that there is like demand for this kind of functionality in platform engineering and building platforms, and they just made this feature available. I must say I was skeptical about Pulumi for a long time. I was waiting for this to really start growing and being adopted by many companies, because before it was like a weird repackaging of Terraform with some programming on top, but now it seems way more mature and way more product focused, and treating creating a new infra as code workloads way better than Hashicorp, for example. And that's for this episode of mknews. I hope you liked it. As always, please tell me in the comments if some important news were missed, or if you want to hear more news about AI, or more news about AWS, or more news about the industry, because so far still I am giving you kind of a mixed bag of different news, and I wonder what's most interesting to you, if it should be more about DevOps engineering, about AWS features, or should it be more about the more global technology things like these new chips or new robots, or the new changes in how data centers are built. Another point is, please check out the last week's video from Pablo, because if you're working with the Google Cloud, Pablo did this excellent overview of Google Cloud Next 24 releases. So you will get everything important from his video about all the new releases in like 8 minutes, and then you don't need to spend time yourself reading the press releases yourself. Another reminder is, if you fit certain requirements regarding the company size and infrastructure size, you can get a free cost audit from mkdev. Just use the link to our website in the description and contact us. We'll have a call and discuss if you're eligible or not. Otherwise, that's it. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
Do you think your project infrastructure is well set and maintained? We know for sure there is always room for improvement. If you are uncertain where to begin, let's first do an audit of what you already have. We will review your setup from every angle: performance, cost, security, high availability, automation, and provide you with a detailed roadmap of which direction your infrastructure should go, generate concrete tasks for you to implement, or even take on your infra entirely, if you let us, of course.